Welcome to the Main Basketball Rankings podcast. I am your host, basketball data nerd, Lucas McNally, and oh boy, do we have a mess. If you haven't heard already, the Wiscasset has fired their girls basketball coach for reasons. Boy, Daniel Wall was the coach of the Wiscasset girls basketball team. You may remember Daniel Wall as the coach who helped them break a 122 game winning streak. And apparently, he flew too high, flew too close to the sun, winning a game, and now he's out of a job. Very surprising development because it's very rare that you even see anyone get fired midseason. My first joke when I heard this was that someone in Wiscasset said, "Look, buddy, we do two things here in town. We sit in traffic for 20 minutes so tourists can eat terrible, frozen, reheated lobster rolls, and we lose basketball games. So get with the program." So, or maybe he's just in that Facebook group, the Give Reds Eats the Finger when you drive through town, and they found out that about him. But no, seriously, is a very strange situation. So Friday, this is like 2 weeks after breaking the 22 game winning streak, Wiscasset Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kim Anderson, sent this letter to parents. Effective Friday, January 24th, the Wiscasset Athletic Department has made the decision to part ways with girls varsity basketball head coach Daniel Wall. This change comes as part of our ongoing commitment to uplift our athletic programs and support our student body in achieving their fullest potential. It lost 122 games in a row before a guy came along, but okay, sure. We are pleased to announce that Coach Jamie Roy will step in as the interim head coach for the remainder of the season. That's the boys' coach. Coach Roy brings a wealth of experience and a positive attitude that we believe will greatly benefit our athletes and the overall program. We appreciate Coach Wall's contributions during his time with us and wish him the best in his future endeavors. As we move forward, our focus remains on fostering a supportive and successful environment for our student athletes, yada, 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 yada. There's a couple things in here. The thing that struck me and a couple people I've talked to about this is there's a real focus on sportsmanship. And I was talking to Mick LaBelle today about this. He does sports for Lincoln County News, and so he's kind of been the only person covering Wiscasset high school basketball on the front lines. And he said that Wall is not the quietest person in the world. It's not Bobby Knight levels of throwing chairs, and it's not, I wouldn't even say it's the loudest coach in Lincoln County or in Class D or in the state or anything like that. But it's, if you had to put him on the spectrum of quietest to loudest coaches, he's probably on the louder side. And that the theory is that maybe that is part of it here because they talk a lot about sportsmanship and positivity and stuff like that. And in one of Mick's stories about the game where they broke the losing streak, there was something about one of the girls was crying during the game and someone had to comfort her, and that seemed very minor at the time, and so maybe that's part of it. And then in a email to the to Varsity Maine, to the whatever the newspapers in Bath, she wrote, I would add to this that the hard work, dedication, resiliency, and pride our student athletes are pouring into their teams is inspirational. That, combined with the high expectations for sportsmanship and professionalism shared by our coaching staff and athletic director Brendan Rogers, is truly making our program first rate. Okay, our future is bright. And again, they had just lost 122 straight games. So I think that's part of it. There was also reporting in the Portland Press Herald or Varsity Maine or whichever of their papers that there was not a specific incident that caused this. So it's not like he, I don't know, broke a clipboard in the locker room or something and it splintered off and lodged in someone's leg, or he sucker punched the AD or something like that. It's just a very weird thing to do mid-season. But then, and it gets more fun. One of the parents, Michael Richardson, wrote Um, on Facebook, Coach Wall was unjustly fired 2 days after this interview the AD and administration had out for him from day one, and no amount of success was going to protect him. It didn't feel like he was very supported, and it's tough to accept. Yeah, so it sounds like there's some parents who are very upset about this. It's kind of though, if I had to guess and reading the tea leaves here, and this is pure speculation, this just screams of some parents got mad, didn't like the coach because of some reason, and went over somebody's head, or just complained and kept complaining, and the coach is the victim. And we've seen this story 100 times. And if I had to guess, that's what I would guess was happening here. And the reports out of this program have been pretty bad for a really long time. Um, and I mean, you're losing 122 games in a row. It's not great. And, they've been through a lot of coaches, and you hear people talk about what things were like in that program and stories about people being late and all this stuff. And it reminds me of my stepdaughter Zoe had a teacher one year who decided that he didn't like homework and he didn't believe in homework, you know? And Zoe thought this was the greatest teacher in the world. She loved this teacher. And then you're not going to guess what happened. The next year, she got a real teacher. And this real teacher believed in homework. And so all of a sudden, Zoe's like, "What do you mean I have to do all this homework?" And oh my gosh, you think someone like told her her puppy was being held hostage by the Russians. It was awful. And it took a while to adjust. And then she figured out how to do homework. And it kind of feels like maybe that's what's happening here is just they weren't being coached for a really long time. And then someone came in and started coaching them. And they're like, "Whoa, what is this? We're just here to have fun." And he's like, "Yeah, but what if instead of that, we stopped losing every game by 80 points?" So, you know, we're going to hear more about this in the next couple of days. It's a whole big mess. And if you ask me, the school looks terrible in this. And the only way this really makes sense is maybe if they've already got someone in mind, but then just let the guy finish the season. Like, how much worse could it get? All right. So, the whole thing. Anyway, so that was not the plan for this podcast because this happened. I was going to do a summary thing of the week, and that was going to be fun. But when you have news, you have news. Okay, so one of the other thing, so we're just going to skip the summary of the week stuff. And I've got the Celtics game on, and they are now tied with 4 minutes left. So if I just stop talking, that's probably why. And uh, anyway, so I did this last year, and so I did it again this year. It's a Mr. Basketball straw poll, and last year this was super interesting because last year's Mr. Basketball race, as you probably remember, was very, 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 very close, and no one had a great idea of who it should be, or could be, or would be, or any of that. And so I thought, well, let's do it again, even though my sense was that it was less close this year. And so we're also doing it for the girls, which is a lot closer. What is happening to Luke Cornett? It's a lot closer than we all thought it was going to be because we all sort of assumed it was going to be Bailey Breen, but Bailey Breen down in Florida, you know the drill. Okay, so who is voting in this straw poll? That's a good question. It's a bunch of bunch of names you know. I'm not going to like put anyone on blast here or show you anyone's ballot because secret voting and all that, but it's the media people that you would expect to be in this poll, doing this poll, at least the ones who actually filled it out. Because so there were 11 ballots, and probably 20 people said they would do it, and 11 people actually did it. And it's the 20 people that you would expect for me to ask. Let's just say that. There's a couple ADs in there, and I think there's a coach, but it's mostly media people who cover a portion of the state. There's Northern Maine people, there's Bangor people, there's Portland people, there's Mid-Coast people, there's Central Maine people. It runs the gamut, so it's not some Oh my gosh, it's just a bunch of Portland beat writers, and they have never even heard of caribou. So it's nothing like that, but still people are going to complain. Okay, so let's do this for the girls. We had 6 ballots come in for the girls, and we'll go top to bottom. Okay, number 1. This is not much of a surprise. She got 5 first place votes. Ella Pelletier for Oxford Hills. Number 2 with the other first place vote is Madeline Dupree. Steve, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. But you know who I'm talking about out of Caribou. Number 3 is Madomic Valley's Katana Williamson. Number 4 is Isabel Morelli. Number 5 is Abby Morrill. Number 6, Callie Pomerleau. Number 7, Claire Gattani out of BAPS. And then we have a 4-way tie at 8th with Ellie Austin, Marin Maxon, Sarah Therio, I think I said that one wrong too, and Kylie Lamson. And then also receiving a vote, Madeline Hill. So there's your top 5 is Pelletier, Madeline Dupree. Steve Carmichael's going to kill me. Katana Williamson, Isabella Morelli, and Abby Morrill. Okay, so over to the boys' side, we had 11 ballots here, so a little more variety. And they're going to throw this game away, aren't they? Anyway, number 1, no surprise. The only person on all 11 ballots is Jameer Rose. He got all 11 first place votes. I think we can call this one a wrap. Number 2 is Gabe Lash from Madomic. Number 3 is Manny Hidalgo out of South Portland. Tied at 4th is Leo McNabb and Wyatt Benoit. We have a big tie here at 6th place. Crady Dixon out of Wyndham. I'm going to definitely get this wrong. Dang Mewan. Yeah, I should have looked that up before I hit record. Out of Edward Little. Jace Bessie out of Spruce. And Will Francis out of Orono. And no, wait, Will Francis is below Bessie. That's tied for 9th with Bryce Gutard. This is just not going well. And then also receiving votes, Tristan Robbins and Zeb Foster. So your top 5 there, Jameer Rose, Gabe Lash, Manny Hidalgo, Leo McNabb, Wyatt Benoit, and we'll call it Crady Dixon. So I think that's a pretty good, that feels right. Yeah, that does kind of feel right. The interesting thing is Gabe Lash is probably not getting to 1,000 points, but his defense is just so good. And part of the reason he's not getting to 1,000 points is he's not playing in the 4th quarter because they're blowing everybody out. So it's kind of, a victim of your team's success. Okay, so let's get to the top 10 and then we'll wrap this up. And there's 27 seconds left in this Celtics game. All right. Okay, so we'll do the girls first. We'll start at 15. And, so 15th is Granite Gloucester. 14th is Old Town. 13th is Coney. Somebody's mad on Facebook about that. Number 12 is Edward Little. The reason Coney's a little low is because their strength of schedule is not great. It's pretty good, but it's not great. And, these are small margins here. Number 12 is Edward Little. Number 11 is Marshwood. Number 10, up 2 spots this week, is Madomic Valley. They are 12-3. They are plus 121. They beat Belfast 48-34. And they won a thriller at Lincoln Academy 48-46. They have the 4th hardest remaining strength of schedule in the state. And so now we're going to talk about Katana Williamson. Katana Williamson this week Madomic does a Pause for the Cause game every year. It's a pink out game. They raise money for cancer research. Not cancer research, sorry. They raise it for cancer patients. And it's a little different in that it's instead of research, it's for people who are going through cancer, and then it's, to put gas in their tank, to buy groceries, stuff like that, because the sort of stuff that you probably have trouble keeping up on when you, have cancer. So at the Pause for the Cause game, she scored her 1,000th career point. So I was there and I got video of that, and let's check that out. Or not video of that, I talked to her after the game. So here we go. Tana Williamson, third Madomic Valley girl to score 1,000 points. How does it feel?
It feels great. I never thought I was going to get to this point. It's really cool. It's very exciting.
So at some point you had to figure you were going to. Like, how long has that been a thing you've been like, oh, maybe?
At the end of last year, actually, I was told that I was on track, and I was like, okay, so I can do it this year. And every game got closer, and it's been very exciting.
So you also did it in a full house, the Pause for the Cause, but you're wearing the shirt. Did it mean more to do it in front of a big crowd?
Yeah, I did, and I had some college friends who were here, and other people who were able to make it, and so it was very special to me that it happened today.
So you've very much grown up in this program. You've been at every game. You've been to more games than anybody probably. And you've watched a lot of really good basketball players come through here who didn't get to 1,000 points. Does that make it mean more?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, one of my brother's best friends got it. He didn't get it, but I still think my brother was an incredible player. So it's obviously it's a huge accomplishment to me, but even though that some other people doesn't get it, doesn't mean that they weren't that amazing either.
So I was going to ask you about your brother, Micah. Had a great career here. Like you said, didn't get to 1,000 points. How often going forward will you remind him of that?
Well, it's hard. I probably will, but he's been very supportive, and he's been the one to help me get to this point. So I can't rub it in his face too much, but I will have some bragging rights over here. So
are you just going to walk around the house at Thanksgiving with the banner?
Oh yeah,
I'll wear
like a crown. I'll have a shirt. I'll make it known.
All right, so you're also, I don't know if you've looked up at the banner on the wall, you're about you're fewer than 30 points away from Julia Littlefield's school record, or program record that is. I don't think you're going to catch Josh Nash.
No.
You got a ways to
Not
go.
Quite. Yeah.
What would that mean to be the all-time leading scorer?
That would mean a lot to me. Like I said, I never even really thought about 1,000 points, and now that I'm here, I really want to break the girls' record. And just having my name up there in the first place is like everything. So breaking that girls' record would be crazy.
And your brother's name won't be up there.
And he won't, and mine will, and I can always look and bring my kids here and say, that's me, my brother's name's not.
All right, thanks, congratulations.
Thank you.
It didn't take her very long. The next game was at Lincoln Academy, which didn't look like it was going to be close for a while, and then it got very close, and Williamson sort of put the team on her back and hit this bucket that both ended up being the game winner and gave her the record. So we'll watch this real quick. Like I said, that was the game winner of that one. Very strange strategy in that game where Lincoln had the lead up one. They were up one with like 3.5 minutes left and went into some weird stall. And I was even talking to Lincoln people after the game. And they're like, what was that? And Madomic came back and they won, and they sealed it at the finish at the free throw line. And there were some theatrics at the end with putting time back on the clock, and it was a whole thing. But yeah, so that's her week. So next week they're gonna finish. Their finishing starts. They have Erskine at Oceanside, and then Camden at home. But Camden at home is next week. Okay, number 9 is Cheverus. They move up 2 spots. They're 10-4. They're plus 190. They won at Deering 48-25, and then they won at Wyndham 52-39. They are scoring 53.8 points a game, which leads all of AA, and they have the 14th hardest strength of schedule. They this week will travel to Scarborough and take on South Portland. Number 8 is South Portland. They're 12-3. They're plus 313. They beat Gorham this week, last week, 52-33, and Massabesic by a whole hell of a lot. They are giving up 30.7 points a game. That's 9th best in the state, and they're 8th in scoring differential. And Tatum tied the game with 5 seconds left. All right. This week they have Cheverus. Number 7 is Oceanside. They dropped 3 spots. They're 11-3. They're plus 219. They lost at Lawrence 56-37. They beat Morse 66-33. And they are 10th in the state at scoring at 56.8 points a game. They have the 20th hardest strength of schedule. This week they have Mount Ararat on, today, when you're watching this today, it's Tuesday. That'll be a big one. And they have Madomic. Number 6 is Spruce. They move up 7 spots. They're 14-1. They're plus 313. They beat Levitt 59-34, and they beat Madison 53-28. They are 8th in scoring differential, and they are 5th in percent perfect at 84%. Percent perfect, if you're new, is the percentage of the power ranking points available to you that you have earned. This week they're at Mount Abram and at Mountain Valley. Number 5, dropping 3 spots is Biddeford. They're 10-4. Biddeford's going to fall. I'm going to warn you right now. They're going to fall. There's basically no points left in their schedule, so they're just going to fall by virtue of people gaining where they don't. They beat Portland 66-29. They are 17th in the state in percent perfect at 69.3%. They played the 11th hardest schedule in the state, and I think they're like the 95th hardest the rest of the way. They will go to Noble, and they have Brunswick, who I don't know who's healthy yet for Brunswick. Brunswick's had so many injury problems that it's anyone's guess on what you're going to actually get. If you get them at full strength, they're really good. If you don't get them at full strength, and they've been not even close to full strength some nights, it's a bit rough sledding. So, but the defending champs, they'll be fine. I'm not worried about them. Number 4 is Caribou. They move up 3 spots. They're 14-1. They're plus 372. They beat Ellsworth 65-22. But speaking of teams that have had lots of injury problems, and oh my gosh, 0.7 of a second left. Hold on 1 second. We're going to watch this. Oh, and the Celtics lost. Well, what are you going to do? Where were we? Caribou. Yeah, so they beat Ellsworth 65-22, and then they beat MDI 64-51. They are 9th in percent perfect at 57.3%, and they are 5th in scoring differential. They have Holton, and they are at Old Town. Number 3 is Lawrence. They moved up 3 spots. They're 14-0. They are plus 416 on the season, and there are people on Facebook who are convinced that I show them no love because clearly being 3rd in the state is a great insult. I can't even with people sometimes. It's like, I think people are they just need to manufacture anger or someone to be mad at or someone that's an affront to them, or I don't know what it is, but people need to chill is the short version. They are, what do they do? Oh yeah, so they beat Oceanside 56-37. They beat Camden 68-54, and they blew out Mount Blue. They're 3rd in the state in scoring at 68.9 points a game, and their percent perfect is 93.5%, which is 3rd best. This week they will have Coney, that's a big one, and they have Skowhegan. Number 2 is Mount Ararat. They move up 1 spot. They're 12-2. They're plus 240. They beat Edward Little on the road 61-51. They beat Westbrook on the road 67-54. They are 8th in the state in scoring at 57.4 points a game. They're 12th in strength of schedule. They've got the big one against Oceanside, and then they've got Freiburg. Number 1 still is Oxford Hills. They're 13-2. They're plus 222. They won at Wyndham 44-37. Then they beat Edward Little 45-42. Their percent perfect is 72.7%. That's 14th best in the state, and they have the 3rd hardest schedule in the state, and they have Lewiston this week. So there's your top 15: G&G, Old Town, Coney, Edward Little, Marshwood, and then the top 10: Madomic Valley, Chevreuse, South Portland, Oceanside, Spruce Mountain, Biddeford, Caribou, Lawrence, who apparently I hate and show no love for, even though I took him in the wins draft. And really was one of the last holdouts of has Cooper been more successful than Cindy Blodgett? I was one of the people going, well, let's pump the brakes a little bit here for a while. I think that's over. And then Mount Ararat and Oxford Hills. On to the boys. Number 15 is Brewer. Number 14 is Skank. I think I said that wrong. Number 13 is Ellsworth. Number 12 is Messalonsky. I apparently also have hatred in my heart for Messalonsky. I don't know. Number 11 is Thornton Academy. Number 10 is York. They dropped 6 spots. They're still 14-0. They're plus 250, but they beat at Trape 84-54, but Trape is 87th in the state, so there's not really any points there. They're the bottom is starting to fall out of York's strength of schedule, and so they're starting to fall in the rankings, and it's kind of hard to figure out if that's real or not, but it's just how the math works. They average 68 points a game. That's eighth best in the state. Their strength schedule, like I said, is down to 70th, and their percent perfect is 81.6%, which is good for fourth. This week they have Lake Region, they have Cape, which will not help the schedule issue, and they have Yarmouth, which will be an interesting test for them. Number 9 is South Portland. They dropped 3 spots. They're 12-3. They're plus 157. They beat Gorham 63-45, and they beat Massabesic 79-38. They are 23rd in the state in scoring at 60.5 points a game, and they have the 8th hardest strength of schedule. This week they have a big game against Cheverus. Number 8 is Spruce Mountain. They move up 2 spots. They're 13-3. They're plus 356. They beat Levitt 73-48. They lost a big game to Mount Abram 63-57, and they won at Madison 54-42. They're 7th in the state in scoring at 68.2 points a game. They're 8th in scoring differential, 26th in strength of schedule. So Spruce is getting that harder schedule that they've been looking for, and so the wins losses aren't as gaudy as they usually are, but the strength of schedule is better, and we'll see how that works out come tourney time. This week they have Mountain Valley. Speaking of Mount Abram, that's number 7. They move up 2 spots. They're 15-1. They're plus 225. They beat Spruce, like we said. They beat also at Moran. They won at Maranacook 70-55, which was a little bit of a surprise. I thought that would be closer. They're 15th in the state in scoring at 65.3 points a game. So here's an interesting number. They are 6th in the state in percent perfect against the top 50, which I think is an important thing to look at for a C school, because a C school and a D school, you may be fattening up on some of the softer parts of the schedule, but they're playing pretty well against the good teams that they're getting scheduled. So next they will be at Madison. Number 6 is Cheverus. They move up 6 spots. They're 11-3. They're plus 218. They lost this week at Deering 62-65. When I was going to do the version of this with the summary, this was going to be in there. Deering scored the last 9 points of that game to shock them. I think they scored 6 points in 13 seconds. And then they made them mad, and they went and beat Wyndham 66-51. That was a real eye-opener. They are first in Double-A in scoring differential. They are 4th in the state in percent perfect against the top 25 at 67.8%, which is, like we just talked about with Mount Abram. It's a very interesting, telling stat. They will head to Scarborough, and they will head to South Portland. Number 5 is Caribou. They move up 6 spots. They're 15-1. They're plus 444. They beat Holton 105-38, which pissed off everyone on Facebook. You know how I feel about that. Score more points. Play better defense. That's as simple as that. They beat Ellsworth 62-43, and they beat MDI 59-55. They are first in the state in scoring at 76.8 points a game, and they are 3rd in scoring differential, and they will take on Emmett Byther in Old Town this week. Number 4 is Wyndham. They dropped 1 spot. They're 12-3. They're plus 160. They lost at Oxford Hills 70-65. They lost to Cheverus 66-51. So rough week for the champs. 69.4 points a game, which is 6th in the state and leads Double-A. Yeah, that's right. And they have played the 9th hardest schedule in the state. That'll get a little easier this week. They have Lewiston and Scarborough. Number 3 is Falmouth. Falmouth moves up 2 spots. They are 12-3. They're plus 154. They won at Greeley 59-45. They beat Kennebunk 56-51. They are 2nd in Class A in scoring differential, and they are 2nd in Class A at percent perfect at 53.7%. And up next, they will head to Freeport. Maybe side trip to LL Bean. Who knows? Number 2, sticking in number 2 is Noble. They're 13-1. They're plus 201. They beat Biddeford 70-52. They beat Westbrook 64-54. They lead Class A in scoring at 64.4 points a game. They are... my notes do not make any sense there. I think this says their percent perfect is 72.5%. Oh, I'm sorry. They lead Class A in scoring in percent perfect at 72.5%. In percent perfect versus the top 50 and in percent perfect against the top 25. So I think you could call them legit. I think we can all agree they're legit. They're going to get Mr. Basketball, it looks like. It's a good time to be a Noble fan. This week they'll be at Sanford, and then they will take on Mount Ararat. Number one, sticking at number one, is Madomic Valley. They are 15-0. They are plus 438. They beat Belfast this week, 83-23. I was at both of these games because it's down the road. They held Belfast without a basket for, what was the number? It was over 19 minutes. I think it was 19 minutes and 17 seconds. They kept Belfast from making a basket, and they were into the JV minutes by the time Belfast finally got one late in the third quarter. Like I was talking about earlier with Gabe Lash, he was out of the game with 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and they were deep into the JVs by then. And then they won. They beat Lincoln Academy 65-35. Just the same sort of thing where they just shut them down for long stretches. They're 11th in the state in scoring at 66.7 points per game. They are 4th in the state in scoring defense at 37.5 points a game. And their percent perfect is 96.8% versus the top 25, which is the best in the state. They, this week, will head to Erskine, and they will head to Oceanside, which, as we all know, will be a big rivalry game in a small gym. So there's your top 15 for boys. Number 15, Brewer, Skank, Ellsworth, Meso, Thornton Academy. Then number 10 is York. Number 9, South Portland. Number 8, Spruce Mountain. Number 7, Mount Abram. Number 6, Cheverus. Number 5, Caribou. Number 4, Wyndham. Number 3, Falmouth. Number 2, Noble. And number 1 is Madomic Valley. And there is your top 10. We're a little late. I was going to do this. This was supposed to be a day earlier, but got lucky with the story from Wiscasset. Yeah, so that's the show. Let me find the thing. Tourney time is coming, so if you haven't subscribed yet to the site, like, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the site, and all sorts of fun stuff on there, all sorts of stats. The tourney odds are up and updating every day-ish, and you're going to want to know where you're playing, who you're playing, how that's all going to shake out. So subscribe. It's $6 a month. Okay, so this podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoy this, I skipped a paragraph. There we go. Sorry. This has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball, from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and in a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoyed this, please leave a nice review because it really does help out with the algorithms. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Thanks for watching.